Okay, this is project 4 for computer network security course, and in this we'll be using um, Metasploit and Snort um, in the capacity of victim and attacker. And the first task is to get the LAMP server, the OpenSSH server, PHP server, and Snort installed in the victim machine. And I've got all of that done, and I can get the version of the Snort in the victim machine. So this is it. Now part 2, before that, for part 1 I had to reconfigure Snort, and I had to use promiscuous mode and E0 as the interface, and I configure everything. All of those are already done. Now for part 2, I'd have to use nmap, the nmap scan from the attacker VM, that is Kali, and in the victim VM there needs to be the Snort. There needs it needs Snort to be running. So let's check that out in attacker. So this is the basic command for nmap, and let's see if it works. Okay, and it is starting nmap, and this is, yes, you can see here in the Snort that um, the attacker is doing the nmap for all the ports, and this is the report from the nmap scan. It says that port 53 with TCP is open, and the OS detection has been performed, and all 1000 scanned ports are closed for 1.4. That's the self. 1.3 is another host. Let's go to 1.2. It's a bit slow. Yes, for 1.2 you can see SSH port 20 and port 80 is open. So once you have this kind of information, you can use any of the available exploits in the MSF console and try to perform penetration testing. Okay, now that is done. Now part 3 is using snort logging and the SYN flood from the MSF console. So I have already configured the SYN flood. So I've set MSF to use SYN flood, and I've set the R host to 192.168.1.2. That is the victim machine. And in the victim side, just a second, just disable this. And here, this is how we specify the log directory for snort. Okay, now it's running, and let's try and do an attack. Okay, should be flooding, and so to view the log file, it's supposed to be snort-r and then the file name. You can get to so this is the latest log file, so it's going to be 7. No, forgot the sudo. Okay, you may not be able to see it, but uh, just a second, just takes a long time. So what basically happens is the attacker um, starts flooding the victim with syntax from each port. Let me just show you. So here you can see first second. So what happens is that this it's just a bit slow. So the it's a bit too much of a big file. So what essentially happens is that the attacker just floods the host, the victim machine with syntax, and this causes the victim to use up all its resources to satisfy all these requests. And when legitimate users come in, they are unable to use these resources. Okay, so that's part 3. And part 4 is writing snort rules. One is for Facebook, and 2 is any other snort rules and exploit it. So I've written some rules. So this rule is a rule that alerts the console if there's a DNS query for Facebook. This hex value is the hex value for www.facebook.com, and this is the second rule is the rule for facebook.com any TCP packet, and these two are the final two rules that I wrote here. If there's any access to the FTP port 21, then there will be an alert. I tried to use FTP login exploit from MSF, but there were some problems, and I'm just going to use the FTP command. And the final rule is checking if there's any ping floods when there are ICMP packets that are generated and sent to the victim. So let me just show you. So I have all those rules running. So first I'll show you Facebook. It is then here you can see there are 2 DNS queries, and then there are 2 Facebook packets, TCP packets. Now Smart is running. Let's try. Okay. Looks like it is. It'll just take a second.